All right, we're going to continue on in the one and only Ivan today. Those of you that haven't turned in chapters 42 through 48 and 49 through 63, you need to get those turned in because I'm going to start marking them missing, and that changes the grade on that to a 0. Okay, and if you don't know what a 0 does to your grade, makes it go down the toilet. All right, so as we are reading chapters 64 through 72, bless you, bless you. We're going to start off, before we even read, we're going to start off. Jenny, you want to join us? Thank you. How do you think animals are like humans? Because I swear my dog thinks she's a human sometimes. Okay, so you're going to tell how you think animals are like humans, and then you're going to tell how do you think animals are unlike humans. Do you know what that means? Yeah. What does unlike mean? Not like. All right, so that's going to be our quick write. And in fact, what I'm going to have you do right now is get your Chromebook out, go into your reading classroom, click on the 64 through 72 in there.
No, not either.
And go to the quick write, and there's going to be 2 parts that you answer. How you think animals are like humans, and then how you think animals are not like humans. me give you 2 minutes to finish that. Seconds. Okay, if you're not finished with that, you're going to have to finish it in just a little bit. All right, so now I need everybody's attention. As we're going through these chapters, this is similar to us, right? We're just going to put the vocabulary word next to, oh no, this isn't similar. This is different. They're giving us an antonym. What does antonym mean? A word that is the opposite. Okay, so the vocabulary for these few chapters is sullen, thrilled, trudges, and gleaming. Now, if we look at those words in our vocabulary sheets, sullen means sulky and glum. Remember when Ivan was sulking, kind of pouting? So if you're pouting, are you in a good mood or are you kind of in a down mood? All right. The next word is thrilled, and that means happy and excited. Trudges means to walk very slowly and very heavily with your feet. Then the next word is gleaming, and that means shining. Okay, so of the words that they give us for the definition, these are the antonyms of those words. So what is the opposite of cheerful? Sullen, maybe? All right, if you want to, you can type that in really quick since we did that one. Or a couple of these could go either way. What do you think the opposite of oh darn it, let me go back. What do you think the opposite of unhappy is? I'm jumping down to number 3. Unhappy. Which vocabulary word would be the opposite of unhappy? What do you think, Amy? Thrilled? I would agree with you. So go ahead and type in your answer for 3. And then that just leaves you with 2 and 4. And you'll have time later to do those. Once you have 1 and 3 done, then just put your hands in your lap for me. Should the words be spelled correctly?
Yes.
Definitely. They're right there, aren't they? Okay. This is a part that's different for us also. This is sequencing. We're going to put the following statements in chronological order. Do you know what that means?
Number.
Which of them happened first? Which one happened second? Which one was third, fourth, and then fifth? Okay. So the first one says, now does this mean that this is definitely the first one? No, not necessarily. It says Julia gives Ivan some finger paints. Now, we haven't read this yet, so can we answer these? No. Mac threatens Ruby with the claw stick. Ruby hits Mac with her trunk. Ivan remembers when Helen left Mac. After 2 days of being gone, Mac starts to train Ruby. All right, then for this bottom part, this says theme. What is an important lesson that could be learned from these chapters? And then explain. All right, if we look at slide 2, we have our 3 comprehension questions like we've had either on the paper or the other slides that we've done. In chapter 68, titled My Place, Ivan says, but many days I forget what I am supposed to be. Am I human? Am I a gorilla? Explain why you think he says this. Bless you. So we'll have to see what's happening up to that point to help us be able to answer why he's asking those 2 questions. And then 2, why does Ruby disobey Mac? Do you know what it means to disobey?
Not listen.
Yeah, to not do what you're supposed to be doing. And how does Mac respond? Do you agree or disagree with what Mac does? So there's 3 parts there. What does she do to disobey him? How does he respond? And based on whatever his response is, do you agree or disagree with that? We'll have to wait and see, won't we? 3rd one, how can you tell George and Julia genuinely care about the animals? Why does George feel like he can't really help Ruby? 2 questions there. And then the last one. Once we've read all of these chapters in this group, you're going to write about the most memorable moment from this group of chapters. Okay? All right, so let's take a look. Oops. Let's take a look at chapter 64. All 2 sentences of it. I soon learned that humans can screech even louder than monkeys. After that, I was never allowed in the kitchen. Because do you remember what he had done before with the chocolate cake?
Yeah.
What did he do?
He painted with it.
Yeah, he painted all over the refrigerator with it. Because it reminded him of what?
Mud.
The mud from when he was back home in Africa. All right, so who do you think was doing the screeching even louder than monkeys could screech? Probably Helen, right? Okay, the next chapter is babies. Back in those days, the Big Top Mall was smaller. It had a pony ride, a wooden train that bustled around the parking lot, a few bedraggled parrots, and a surly spider monkey. But when Mac brought me a baby gorilla dressed in a crisp tuxedo to the mall, everything changed. People came from far and wide to have their pictures taken with me. They brought me blocks and a toy guitar. They held me in their laps. Once, I even held a baby in mine. She was small and slippery. Bubbles flowed from her lips. She squeezed my fingers. Her rear was puffy with padding. Her legs bowed like bent twigs. What made her rear end puffy?
The diaper.
The diaper. I made a face. She made a face. I grunted. She grunted. Make sure you're following along. I was so afraid she would fall that I squeezed her tightly, and her mother yanked her away. I wonder if my mother ever worried about dropping us. We always held on, but that's easier to do when your mother is furry. Human babies are an ugly lot, but their eyes are like our babies' eyes. Too big for their faces and for the world. Beds. One day, after many weeks of loud talking, Helen packed a bag and slammed the front door and never came back. I don't know why. I never know the why of humans. That night, I slept with Mac in his bed. My old nests were woven of leaves and sticks and shaped like his bathtub, cool green cocoons. Mac's bed, like mine, was flat, hot, without sticks or stars. Still, he made a sleeping sound like the rumble my father used to make when all was well, a sound from deep inside his belly. What's the sound that Mac is making? He's snoring. All right, so actually, friends, this would be chapter 67, I believe, My Place. Mac grew sullen. Recognize that word?
Yeah.
Kind of down, not very happy, right? I grew bigger. I became what I was meant to be, too large for chairs, too strong for hugs, too big for human life. I tried to stay calm, to move with dignity. I did my best to eat daintily, but human ways are hard to learn, especially when you're not human. When I saw my new domain, I was thrilled, and who wouldn't have been? It had no furniture to break, no glasses to smash, no toilets to drop Mac's keys into. It even had a tire swing. I was relieved to have my own place. Somehow, I didn't realize I'd be here quite so long. Now I drink Pepsi, eat old apples, watch reruns on TV. Many days I forget what I am supposed to be. Am I a human? Am I a gorilla? Humans have so many words, more than they truly need. Still, they have no name for what I am. All right, let's look at this question. So that must have been chapter 68. In chapter 68, titled My Place, what we just read, Ivan says, "But many days I forget what I am supposed to be. Am I human? Am I a gorilla?" Explain why you think he says this. Why do you think he's questioning those things? Type in your answer on the add your text here part. Can you look back into the book if you need to? Absolutely. Use text evidence. Once you have that completed, go back to slide 1. Okay, so looking at the sequencing, have any of these events happened yet? Has Julia given Ivan finger paints?
No.
Has Mac threatened Ruby with the claw stick? Has Ruby hit Mac with her trunk? Ivan remembers when Helen left Mac?
Yes.
Okay, what about this one? After 2 days of being gone, Mac starts to train Ruby? So where are we going to put the number 1?
Ivan remembers when Helen left back.
Exactly. Whoops, I forgot that I have it on present. So we're going to put a 1 beside Ivan remembers when Helen left Mac. Everybody have it?
Yep.
Okay, let's take a look at the chapter. 9,876 days. Ruby is finally asleep. I watch her chest rise and fall. Bob, too, is snoring. But my mind is still racing. For perhaps the first time ever, I've been remembering. It's an odd story to remember, I have to admit. My story has a strange shape, a stunted beginning, and endless middle. I count all the days I've lived with humans. Gorillas count as well as anyone, although it's not a particularly useful skill to have in the wild. I have forgotten so many things, and yet I always know precisely how many days I've been in my domain. I take one of the magic markers Julia gave me. I make an X, a small one, on my painted jungle wall. I make more X's and more. I make an X for every day of my life with humans. My marks look like this. The rest of the night, I mark the days, and when I am done, my wall looks like this. And so on until there are 9,876 X's marching across my wall like a parade of ugly insects. Is that a lot of days?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The next chapter is a visit. It's almost morning when I hear steps. It's Mac. He has a sharp smell. He weaves as he walks. He stands next to my domain. His eyes are red. He's staring out the window at the empty parking lot. Ivan, my man, he mumbles. Ivan. He presses his forehead against the glass. We've been through a lot, you and me. A new beginning is the next chapter. We don't see Mac for 2 days. When he returns, he doesn't talk about Stella. Mac says he is anxious to teach Ruby some tricks. He says the billboard is bringing in more visitors. He says it's time for a new beginning. All afternoon and into the evening, Mac works with Ruby. Ruby's feet are looped with rope so that she cannot run. A heavy chain hangs off her neck. Mac shows her Stella's ball, her pedestal, her stool. He introduces her to Snickers. When Ruby obeys Mac, he gives her a cube of sugar or a bit of dried apple. When she doesn't, he yells and kicks at the sawdust. When George and Julia arrive, Mac is still training Ruby. Are you with us? Are you sure? Julia sits on a bench and watches them. She draws a little, but mostly she keeps her eyes on Ruby. Bob watches too. He's hiding in the corner of my domain under knot tag. It's raining outside, and Bob does not like damp feet. Ruby trudges behind Mac, her head drooping. Endlessly they circle the ring. Sometimes Mac slaps her flank with his hand. Suddenly, Ruby jerks to a stop. Mac pulls the chain hard, but Ruby refuses to move. "Come on, Ruby," Mac is almost pleading. "What is your problem?" "She's exhausted," I say to myself. "That's the problem." Mac groans. "Idiot elephant." "Idiot human," Bob mutters. "Walk, Ruby," I say, although I know she's too far away to hear me. "Do what he says." "Walk," Mac commands. "Now." Ruby doesn't walk. She plops her rump on the sawdust floor. "I think maybe she's tired," Julia says. Mac wipes his forehead with the back of his arm. "Yeah, I know. We're all tired." He pushes Ruby with the heel of his boot. She ignores him. George looks over from the food court where he is wiping off tables. "Mac," he yells, "maybe you should call it a day. I'll close up." Mac yanks on Ruby's chain. She's as anchored as a tree trunk. He pulls harder and falls to his knees. "That does it," Mac says. He brushes sawdust off his jeans. "I am through playing around." Mac stomps off to his office. When he returns, he is carrying a long stick. The gleaming hook on its end is almost beautiful, like a sliver of moon. It's a claw stick. Mac pokes Ruby with the sharp point. Not hard, just a touch. I can tell he wants her to see how much it can hurt. I growl low in my throat. Ruby doesn't budge. She is a gray, unmoving boulder. She closes her eyes, and for a moment, I wonder if she might have fallen asleep. "I'm warning you," Mac says. He breathes out. He stares at the ceiling. Ruby makes a huffing sound. "Fine," Mac says. "You want to play it that way?" He draws back the claw stick. "No!" Julia cries. "I'm not going to hurt her," Mac says. "I just want to get her attention." Bob snarls. Mac swings. The hook slices the air just a few inches above Ruby's head. "See why you don't want to mess with me," Mac says. He draws back the claw stick again. "Now move!" Ruby jerks her head, flinging her trunk toward Mac. She makes a noise that sends the sawdust scattering. It makes my glass shiver. It is the most beautiful mad I have ever heard. Ruby's trunk slaps into Mac. I don't see exactly where she strikes him, somewhere below his stomach, I think, and I know he must be uncomfortable because Mac drops the claw stick and falls down on the ground and curls into a ball and howls like a baby. "Direct hit," Bob says. All right, I know there was stuff in here about that part of the story.
Yeah.
Let's look in our sequencing part. Anything about the finger paints yet?
No.
Mac threatens Ruby.
Yes.
Ruby hits Mac.
Yes.
After 2 days of being gone, Mac starts to train Ruby.
Yes.
Okay, so there's 3 things there. Of those 3 things, because we already have the number 1 thing done, what would be the second event that occurs? Put a 2 beside the second event, and then a 3, and then a 4, which then means, can you get all 5 of those answered right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, even though we haven't gotten to Julia gives Ivan some finger paints yet. Ruby's a feisty little elephant, isn't she?
Yeah.
I like that.
Mac does deserve it. She's very protective over herself.
Okay, do you have those 5 events in order?
Yep.
Okay, let's look over at question 2. We're going to answer this and then we'll be done with reading for the day, okay? So question 2, remember, was why does Ruby disobey Mac? That's the first part you're going to answer. Then you're going to answer how Mac responded to her disobeying him. And then the third thing you're going to do is tell whether you agree or disagree with what Mac does. And tell why you agree or disagree with that. So 3 parts that you're answering for question 2. Okay? Once you have those 3 parts answered in question 2, then you can close your Chromebook. Then I'll know you're ready to move on to math. Any questions? Haley?
How soon do we have to get those other ones finished?
You just worry about this right now. You're fine.